Ideally, we'd love to have a crystal ball that we could predict the future perfectly and we could set ourselves up for whatever that prediction tells us. That's not possible. This is probably my favorite quote in the world, that the future is uncertain and you can't predict it. It's kind of what I do for a living. I try and, predict's the wrong word, but I try and look for patterns. I look for trends. I try and understand the future of work, but nobody can predict it. Even less so now as we look ahead to the 2020s and these changes to the rules for success and failure. So what do we do about it? Well, instead of trying to predict it, instead of trying to come up with a better 3 to 5 year plan, we've got to rather prepare for whatever might happen. We've got to engineer agility and flexibility into our systems, into our work systems and into our personal systems. For me, this is almost a summary of what I think has to happen. It's a summary of, I think, why we're stressed. We're stressed because we think we work better when we have certainty. We feel more confident when we think we know what's going on. I say think we know what's going on because I don't think we ever do, but we can pretend that there's certainty. We can create an illusion of predictability and consistency. Some of you right now at this time of year are setting up your plans for 2022, your strategies, your goals. Are you really serious? Are you really wasting 3 or 4 days of your time coming up with a strategy plan for next year, putting in targets and goals and budgets, pretending that we know what's going to happen next year? We don't even know if we're going to have a fourth wave of COVID in 4 weeks' time, let alone what 4 months or next December is going to look like. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a strategy, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do planning. But what we're trying to do in most of our workplaces is reduce uncertainty and create an illusion of predictability instead of acknowledging that we can't do that and that our strategy should be flexibility, resilience, agility. Now, I'm talking kind of from a business perspective, but I think that's important for us as individuals as well, that our mental health and our wellness is going to be improved when we stop trying to create certainty and predictability and start trying to create resilience, adaptability, and flexibility, where we embrace disruption and transitions as normal in our lives. So what does that look like? How do we do that? Well, a lot of people are going to give you a lot of information and great ideas over the course of the rest of this conference. But let me give you 3 or 4 high-level strategic inputs, and then we'll have a chance for a conversation. Don't forget, if you have a question that you'd like to specifically address to me, you can pop it into the Q&A box. Don't forget that the chat box is there for you to share any ideas you have as we go along. That will add to our learning. So my first thought is this, that we have to accept that hybrid and flex working is here to stay. Too many of my clients are desperately trying to get their people back to work, hoping that that will get them back to normal, get them back to the way that things were, get that certainty and illusion of predictability back in. But it's not going to happen. And I don't think it should. What I think we need to do is actually embrace the opposite. One of my favorite moments during lockdown was this woman who was doing a weather report, and she had a beautiful green screen behind her like I do, and she's doing the weather, and then, well, have a look at this little clip at what happened next.
So we're waiting for that storm to arrive here in Southern California. It looks like there's maybe down below. All right, Santa Clarita 57, 66 degrees in Chino, Santa Monica 61, 55 in Ventura, and Irvine 64 degrees and 62 in Pasadena. We'll talk about this storm. He walks now, guys, so I've lost all control.
That was such a beautiful moment. If you just see the joy on her face. So clearly now we realize she's at home and she's not in the studio. And obviously, what had happened is that she'd left the baby on the side. This is a baby that couldn't walk until this morning. He walks now. And when you see her face beams. It's the face of a mother who's just watched her child take her first steps. She's loving it, but she's also at work. And you know what? I think that was beautifully handled. I don't think anybody's going to look at that. She should be fired for being unprofessional. There was nothing unprofessional about that. We got the weather news that we needed. She did her job. We realized that she was at home. So what? So what? Yes, the cat walks past in the background. Yes, your kids might interrupt something every now and again. So what? Unless you're a private Swiss banker and you have to be in the privacy of a space so that nobody overhears your, private conversation. And even if that's the case, you could set yourself up at home and make sure that you get that privacy. We've changed our mindset. We've changed our attitudes about, or at least we should have changed our attitudes. I think a lot of people have changed their expectations, and now the attitudes have to catch up. And this future of work conversation is, as I say, not just a COVID conversation. I think that these things were coming anyway, and we need to normalize new ways of thinking about the workplace. If we have blurred these boundaries between when we're in the office and when we're at home and when we're relaxing and when we're on the beach, well, we also need to normalize thinking that this is a good thing. Here's a very unscientific but absolutely truthful set of pie charts. What we think will make us more productive and valuable to our team, and what our bosses think they need more of, is more time, more hours, more hard work. What actually makes you more productive, what actually helps you to contribute, is putting boundaries in place around your work, taking a bit of time off, sleeping better, healthy eating. We've forgotten some of those. And I think that what we need to be doing is normalizing how we think about who's making the best contribution to the team. At the moment, we think that the people who put the most work in are the people who are contributing the most. I had a wake-up call a week or so ago. One of my daughters phoned me. She's studying at UCT, and she phoned me, "Dad, how are you?" And before I could answer, she said, "And please don't say exhausted." And I realized that for the last month, September, October, November are my very, very busy times. I've got a lot of Northern Hemisphere clients. It's kind of the kickoff to their year. They've always been busy. Before COVID, I would be on the road traveling across the Northern Hemisphere with all of my clients, not really at home. It's always been an exhausting time. But Hannah reminded me that that's not a good thing. We often say, "Yeah, I'm working so hard. I'm putting lots of hours in," and everybody goes, "Wow, you're the one who's really contributing. Wow, wow." Instead of saying, "Graeme, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get your work done in time? Shouldn't we normalize the person who finishes their work by 3 o'clock in the afternoon and can take the rest of the afternoon off and take the dogs for a walk and have a nice relaxing evening meal and doesn't have to work in the evening and can get a good night's sleep?" Why don't we look at that person and say, that's the cleverest person in the office. They can finish all of their work early. They seem to have answered all their emails. Why don't we normalize people who are able to put boundaries in place? Say, "No, I can't squeeze another meeting in. I need a gap in my day. No, I can't do that for you. I've got all the work I'm planning to do this week has already been allocated, and your lack of planning does not constitute my emergency, my friends.